check every step of the way to make sure you've got enough coverage. You don't want too much coverage because that's a whole nother ball game where it's wrong, but you want just enough coverage to cover your zip head and your teeth. If you haven't, you need to adjust and make sure that you do as you go. Okay, lucky last step is our fly shield. The reason we have a fly shield because at the moment we have metal teeth here that would rub against the body, and we want to protect or hide those metal teeth so they don't rub against the body, and that's what our shield will do. Okay, so we literally put the right side of our shield to the wrong side of our garment. Make sure that the cut edges at the top match. Make sure that the edge of your zipper tape is at the edge of your overlocking, and pin him in place at the top. Now with this sample here too, in the real world, as obviously our cut work's a little bit short, in the real world the edge of your shield should fully cover all of your tape. Okay, but ours is a little bit short, so it's coming up a little bit short, but in an ideal world, and you probably will remember when you made your patterns, you made your pattern, your shield a fraction longer than your facing, so then it should work out better on. So on your garments, when you cut out your garments, that should cover perfectly, but ours isn't covering perfectly, our cut work isn't quite right. Alrighty, so I pinned the top in place. I'm then going to flip it over so that I can see and pin, because I am going to stitch from this side here. And the tricky part is, as I'm stitching, I'm going to try to catch as much of all of my layers as possible. Now, as you can see, all of this fabric wants to creep this way, so I'm going to keep pulling it away and pinning it where I want you to stitch. If you have stitched with the correct amount of seam allowance, you should see your overlocking on this side here. If you've used a little bit of a smaller seam allowance, you'll see maybe half your overlocking on here. We are going to try and catch that as we stitch through. And the reason being, the more layers we stitch through here, the more secure it's going to be. So I'm just flipping so where I'm pinning is literally where I'm going to stitch. Right through the middle of my overlocking, all the way down. Now it's going to get a bit tricky because remember where we stitched around here, the corner of our nose, and we stopped at that seam. So you're going to see that that stitch line is going to start interfering, so it's going to get a little bit tricky here. So you might have to come out a bit around the edge of that stitch line and back on to catch it. Where we're going to try and catch is all the way down. Now if you can't, the minimum I want you to sew is your zip tape to your fly shield on the other side. But if you can, pull away that seam allowance and use your zipper foot to stitch in the middle of that overlocking there, more power to you. That's what we're aiming for. But if you can't, the least you need to stitch is the zip tape to the shield on the other side. Okay, let's put our zipper foot on or not. Zipper foot on. And remember, you can use your zipper foot anywhere that you need to keep away from stitching onto a certain side. The reason why I'm not using my normal foot is because I have all the bulk on this side. I just want to run in close on one side of my so this has only got a one-sided foot, so I just want to run in close, so I'm going to use it because it's ideal for that task. Anywhere that you need to run in close to and not catch the other side, you can use your zipper foot for. There's no rules about that. It's just about making your life easier when you're stitching.
So, even if you've got a tiny little bit like I did,
yeah,
it's better with the foot.
Yeah. So I'm just, and this hand here is literally pulling that seam away so that I don't catch this seam on this side, because I don't want to catch that. You can see I need to come right off, almost off here, because that's where the end of my zipper is. So I'm actually almost coming off, and then at the bottom part will come back onto that overlocking again right at the bottom. It's tricky because you literally have to pull it apart, but as much as you can stitch them together, go for it. More slips. And the lucky last, I don't know how that come apart, but anyway. Okay, so I've stitched in the middle of my overlocking as much as I can, and like Karen was saying, if you don't have your full overlocking there, just try and catch the edge of it. Bottom line is, the minimum you need is to at least have your zipper tape to your shield on the other side if you can't catch any of your overlocking. Pull it back just to make sure you haven't accidentally caught, and you'll know if it looks like that, you've got a little bit of a tuck like that, that's how you know that you've accidentally caught the right side in that. At the moment now, our fly shield is flapping free, so every time we put our pants on, our shield could accidentally flap the wrong way, and then we have to put our hand in the inside and push it the right way. We don't want to be doing that. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're literally going to catch our shield and our facing together diagonally with a little bit of a stitch. I'm going to put a pin where I want to stitch, and it's just a little back tack there. As long as we catch our shield and our facing together, and it's just literally a back tack. Done. Let's trim
I
off
remember looking in trousers and wondering what that little bit was for.
the back tack. Yeah, it's to catch it. So I'll just hold it out flat now. Stop it from falling the other way, so it'll force itself that way. Your back tack shouldn't be too high, which it isn't. See, it's way down there, that it stops this from opening out, because you need to have that good amount of opening. It shouldn't be any higher than level with the bottom of your zipper pull, which it won't be if you do diagonally on the bottom. Okay, and then that's the last stage that you need to do, is that little back tack. Remembering that in an ideal world, which on your pants that you're doing, that end of that shield should cover the end of your facing. It should cover all of that. Our cut work's a little bit short, so it's not covering. But in your pant world, when you start to sew your pants, it will cover, because you've made the pattern and I know that it's longer. So